everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of The Matrix Rekeeled. Get it? Rekeeled. Anyway, I just want to take a few minutes to kind of reconnect with all of you at Mars Middle School who are spending time at home right now, hopefully using your time wisely and finding lots of great things to do. So, as the librarian, I thought I could bring you a few great books, a few great websites to check out, and finally, maybe you would like to do some writing, create your own journal. I've got some writing ideas for you as well. This week, I finally finished Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and it's everything I dreamed it would be. I really enjoyed the writing of J.K. Rowling. I don't know what it is, but I just lose myself in those books, and I feel like I'm a member of Hogwarts. I'm having a lot of fun with these books. I think it's certainly something that you might consider reading too. But if you've already got through that, or if fantasy is not your thing, I've got 5 books that I'd like to share with you this week that maybe you might consider. One of them might be just up your alley. The first book I wanted to tell you about is a book called Rash. And I read this a long time ago, and I recently recommended it to an 8th grader who said he really enjoyed it. And I don't blame him. It's a great book. We had Pete Houtman come to Mars Middle School, and he talked a great deal about his books. This one in particular, though, is so interesting. It takes place in the United Safer States of America. You see, in this society, everybody has to be ultra careful to do just the right thing. There's no room for mistakes. So when Bo's father is arrested for road rage, he finds himself alone and having to deal with trying to restrict his feelings of anger, but he's not always so successful. In fact, he's so bad at it that he does get taken to a penal colony, a jail up in the Arctic, and he has a really hard time surviving, but he's asked to be on this very elite, illegal football team, and he's very talented, but he comes to realize that maybe the United Safer States of America isn't the best place to be. I highly recommend the book Rash by Pete Houtman. I hope I'm saying his name right. The second book I wanted to tell you about is a really nice book called Maybe. It's a work of historical fiction by Carolyn Starr Rose, and she is another author that we are fortunate to have at Mars via Skype. But this historical novel is about a young girl named Maybe who's recruited to help a young bride who's living in the Kansas territories more than 100 years ago. And so she crosses a great distance to come and stay with them, only to find out that the bride is gone, and she's all alone. She's a young girl, and there's a tremendous blizzard that she has to try and somehow survive. It's not an easy life for Maybe. In fact, that's part of the Britannica Challenge today under the website activities. Why don't you research some sort of natural disaster and write a story about that and what that's like in one of those situations? Okay, let's go on to our third book that I'm recommending that I'm reading right now via Sora, and I love it. It's called 39 Clues, The Maze of Bones by Rick Riordan. If you haven't read a 39 Clues books yet, I highly, highly recommend it. I guess I've only read one, but I'm sure loving the one I'm reading. It's kind of like being in an escape room or a breakout box. These young characters, the main characters are Dan and Amy. They've been orphaned and they live with a horrible a woman who has to kind of oversee how they're living. And anyway, she doesn't want them to participate in this worldwide exploration, trek, adventure to find out the secret of the Maze of Bones and why their family has been fortunate throughout history. I love this book. I'm really enjoying it. Okay, let's move on to some more sci-fi fantasy. We just did adventure. Now it's time for sci-fi fantasy again. And I want to tell you about Graceling by Kristen Kishore. And this book, I've always had a lot of kids who really enjoyed reading this, especially if you like sci-fi fantasy. It's about a young girl named Katsa, and she is one of the few people that has been graced with something called a special talent or a skill that not everybody has. And in fact, people are a little bit nervous about that. And so she kind of keeps her skill under wraps. And it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, her skill, I don't want to give everything away, but helps her become a great warrior. This is a really good book. I think you'll like it. Our last one that I put on our website, our Matrix, to be rekeeled. If you haven't read a book called Runner by Carl Duker, I think that's another one you would really enjoy. Uh, Runner is about a young boy whose father has kind of fallen on hard times. They live very in a very poor surroundings, and they don't have much. And so when the young man is offered a chance to make some money by running back and forth some unusual objects, he gets into a little bit of trouble. It's pretty exciting. But those are 5 books I think you'll read. You can read more about them by clicking on the book on the matrix below, and it'll take you to the Mars catalog. Let's talk about some of the websites and some of the digital literacy activities that you can do this week if you'd like to. And don't forget, you can go back and revisit the other ones we have mentioned as well. Anyway, of course, on Monday we have the Flipgrid to recommend books for Mars Library and the students of Mars Library. We have the Britannica Challenge for Tuesday. On Wednesday, I've shown you, or I've linked up a website that kind of harkens back to the past. I used to have a spirograph as a young kid, and so I thought it would be fun to go ahead and upload this website that lets you do spirographs online. You're kind of creating these amazing, very mandala-like symbols. It's really a fun activity. You can come up with all kinds of really beautiful designs. For Thursday, I was shown a link that some of you might like. The Omaha Henry Dorley Zoo has a virtual zoo that you can visit and see some of the animals. There's lots of YouTube videos of the zookeepers and working with the different animals that they have there. So the animals are kind of taking a break too during this time. You can still visit them online. And the last website is an opportunity for you and your family to listen to some stories read by celebrities. Who doesn't want to hear something read by somebody famous? These wonderful actors who are so talented at bringing characters to life. So go ahead and click on that storylines online, and you'll see some great content. Anyway, I hope you have a great week. Those are some books and websites that I think you might like. Until next time, you guys stay safe. Keep away from others for a while until we can wipe this virus out. And hopefully we'll be back together soon. Adios for now. Oh, did you notice my new bookshelves? What do you think?